Tracy the birthday clown that wasn't hired. A chilling night in Ohio, too. The gift box that bled. A birthday gone wrong in Texas. 3. The last candle of the terrifying 21st. Birthday in California. Birthdays are supposed to be full of joy, laughter, and sweet memories. But what if your special day turned into a nightmare you could never forget? From a birthday clown that wasn't even hired, to a mysterious gift box that started bleeding and a 21st birthday where the candles refused to go out. These true stories will make you think twice before blowing out your next candle. So sit tight, turn off the lights, and get ready for 3 disturbing true birthday horror stories from the USA. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more chilling tales like this. On the birthday clown that wasn't hired. It was supposed to be a day of laughter, balloons, and the smell of frosting drifting through the house. But for the Johnson family of Ohio, Emily's 7th birthday became a memory that would never stop haunting them. The day began like any other happy celebration. Emily woke up excited, bouncing out of bed in her pink pajamas, eager to see her parents decorating the living room with colorful streamers and shiny confetti. The air buzzed with joy. Her mother, Karen, had ordered her favorite chocolate cake, and her father, Mike, was setting up the backyard for the guests. The theme was clowns, bright and cheerful because Emily loved their silly jokes and red noses. The invitations had gone out weeks earlier, and everything was perfectly planned, or at least it seemed that way. Around noon, guests started to arrive, kids running around with party hats and paper horns, laughter echoing across the yard. Then, just as Karen was lighting the candles on the cake, the doorbell rang. Mike answered, expecting another guest, but instead, a man stood there wearing a clown suit, bright red wig, white gloves, face painted with a wide grin that looked just a little too wide. "I'm here for the party," the man said in a cheerful voice, holding a bunch of colorful balloons. Mike, slightly confused, smiled politely and let him in, thinking maybe one of the parents had hired him as a surprise. The kids cheered when they saw the clown, clapping and jumping in excitement. The clown began performing tricks, pulling out long scarves from his sleeves, twisting balloons into animals, and juggling oranges he found on the kitchen counter. Everyone laughed, even Karen, who, though puzzled, didn't want to spoil the mood. "Did you hire him?" she whispered to Mike. "No," he replied quietly. "I thought you did." They both brushed it off, deciding to figure it out later. The party went on, and the clown became the star of the afternoon. But as the sun began to set, something about him started to feel off. His jokes got darker. His laughter lingered a little too long, and every time he looked at Emily, there was a strange intensity in his eyes, almost as if he knew her. When Emily went to open her presents, the clown sat silently in the corner, watching. The room grew quiet, the cheerful music suddenly feeling out of place. Karen noticed how pale his face looked under the paint, how his hands trembled slightly when he adjusted his red wig. Then, as Emily opened her final gift, a small shiny box with no tag, the clown stood up. "That one's special," he said softly, stepping closer. Karen frowned. "Who's it from?" she asked, but the clown only smiled wider. Emily hesitated, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a tiny porcelain clown figurine, its face cracked and smeared with what looked like dried red paint. The air grew heavy, the laughter gone. The clown began humming a slow, eerie tune, one that no one recognized. "Where did you get this?" Mike demanded. But before he could take another step, the clown turned and bolted toward the back door, disappearing into the night. The parents rushed after him, but he was gone. No car, no footsteps, nothing. Just the faint sound of laughter echoing from the woods behind the house. The police were called, of course, but they found nothing. No trace of a hired performer. No record of anyone fitting his description in the area. The parents of the other kids confirmed they hadn't hired a clown either. Days passed and Emily became withdrawn, refusing to sleep in her room. She said she could still hear the clown laughing outside her window at night. At first, Karen thought it was trauma, maybe her imagination, until one night she went into Emily's room and found the small porcelain clown sitting on her bedside table, even though she had thrown it away that morning. Its cracked face now had a new streak of red running down its cheek. Mike decided to get rid of it himself, driving miles out of town to toss it into a river. But the next morning it was back, sitting right on the kitchen counter, wet and cold. That's when the Johnsons decided to move. They packed up their home within a week, leaving behind everything that reminded them of that night. For a while, things seemed normal. Emily started smiling again, attending a new school, trying to forget. But on her 8th birthday, when Karen brought out her cake and turned off the lights, they heard it. The sound of a balloon popping, followed by a faint giggle from the hallway. Mike rushed to check, but there was no one there. Only a single red balloon floated by the doorway, tied to a small card that read, "Thanks for inviting me again, Emily." From that day, strange things began happening wherever they went. Balloons appearing out of nowhere, faint circus music at odd hours, and Emily's toys rearranged every morning as if someone had been playing with them at night. Once, Karen found tiny footprints made of paint leading from the back door to Emily's room. They called priests, investigators, even psychics, but no one could explain it. Some said it was a restless spirit. Others believed it was a man who had died tragically years ago at a traveling carnival near their old town. Whatever the truth, the Johnsons never celebrated another birthday again. Emily grew up fearing clowns, mirrors, and the sound of laughter. And even years later, as an adult, she swears that every November around her birthday, she still receives a package with no return address. Inside, there's always the same porcelain clown, always smiling, always cracked in the same place, as if reminding her that some guests never leave. If you ever hear a knock at your door during a birthday party, and someone shows up in a clown suit you didn't hire, don't let them in. You might be inviting more than just a stranger, because some birthdays are meant to be remembered, but not for the reasons we wish. So if you want more chilling real stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The gift box that bled. It was the night before Sarah's birthday in a quiet Texas suburb, and the house was glowing with warm light, filled with the smell of vanilla frosting and laughter. Sarah was turning 16, a milestone she'd been dreaming about for years. Her parents had gone all out. A big cake, pink and silver decorations, fairy lights twinkling in the backyard, and her best friends invited for an overnight party. Everything was perfect, almost too perfect. As the girls settled in for the night, gossiping, painting nails, taking selfies, there was a sudden knock on the front door. Sarah's mom frowned, checking the clock. It was nearly midnight. Maybe someone's dropping off a gift, her dad said casually and went to open the door. No one was there. Just a small, neatly wrapped box sitting on the porch tied with a red ribbon. There was no tag, no name, no delivery note, just a faint stain on the ribbon that looked almost like dried blood. They assumed it was from one of Sarah's friends who wanted to surprise her early, so her dad brought it in and placed it on the kitchen counter. "You can open it tomorrow," he said with a grin, trying to shake off the strange unease. But later that night, when everyone was asleep, Sarah heard something downstairs, soft scratching like nails dragging across the counter. She thought maybe it was the family cat, but when she looked out her window, she saw the cat outside staring through the glass, fur puffed up and tail stiff. Then came the whisper, faint, raspy, calling her name. "Sarah." Her heart pounded. She told herself it was her imagination, maybe her friends playing a prank, but the voice came again, this time closer, from the hallway outside her room. She woke her best friend, Emily, who laughed it off until they both heard a loud thump from the kitchen. Against better judgment, they crept downstairs. The house was silent, shadows flickering from the dim light of the oven clock. And there, on the counter, the red gift box was open, just a little, as if something inside had shifted. Sarah slowly reached for it, hands trembling. The lid came off easily, but what she saw made her scream. Inside was a small, pale hand, lifeless, cold, severed at the wrist and clutching a tiny gold locket. The girls stumbled back, screaming for Sarah's parents, who rushed down in confusion. But when they looked inside the box, the hand was gone. Only the locket remained. Everyone tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe Sarah was overtired. But the smell of iron lingered in the air, the sharp metallic scent of blood. Her father threw the box away, convinced it was some sick joke. Yet the next morning, when Sarah came downstairs, the box was back on the counter, perfectly wrapped again, the red ribbon freshly tied. This time her name was written on the top in what looked like smeared red ink. Her parents wanted to call the police, but Sarah insisted she open it. Her hands shook as she untied the ribbon. Inside was the same hand, only now the fingers were curled open, revealing the gold locket once more. She picked it up, heart racing, and when she clicked it open, a small faded photograph fell out, of a little girl with curly hair standing in front of a house. On the back of the photo were words scrawled in shaky handwriting, "Thank you for my birthday gift." Sarah had never seen the girl before, but something about the background looked eerily familiar. Her mom's face went pale. "That's this house," she whispered. They turned the photo over again, and yes, the same front porch, the same oak tree, even the same cracked stone near the steps. That night, none of them slept. Her dad searched old property records and discovered something chilling. 10 years earlier, a family had lived in the same house. Their daughter, Lily, had gone missing the day after her 6th birthday. The police never found her body, only a trail of blood leading to the woods. The case had gone cold and the family moved away. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the box was somehow connected to that tragedy. The next evening, while everyone sat in the living room, the lights began flickering. The air turned icy cold. And then, from the corner of the room, they heard a faint humming, the sound of a child singing "Happy Birthday." The melody grew louder until the candles on Sarah's cake lit themselves, one by one. Then, without warning, the box slid across the table on its own. The lid opened again and the severed hand was gone, replaced by a small blood-stained note. It read, "I never got my cake." The candles flickered violently and then every light in the house went out. In the pitch darkness, Sarah felt something brush against her ankle, cold and wet. She screamed and the lights flickered back on. The frosting on her cake was smeared with handprints, tiny ones as if a child had dragged their fingers through it. Her mom fainted, and her dad threw the cake and box into the fireplace, watching the flames swallow them whole. For a moment it seemed over. The air felt lighter and the humming stopped. But later that night, when Sarah went to bed, she noticed the locket on her nightstand. She hadn't brought it there. She picked it up and saw that the picture had changed. The girl now stood closer to the camera, her eyes dark and hollow. On the back, new words appeared, carved into the paper. "Save me." Terrified, Sarah ran to her parents' room, only to find the locket on her pillow again the next morning. The haunting escalated over the next few days, doors slamming, whispers echoing through the vents, toys rolling across the floor at night. Once, Sarah woke to find a trail of small, bloody footprints leading from her closet to the edge of her bed. The police came, searched the house, but found nothing. One officer, an older man, stayed behind to talk privately. He said he'd worked on the missing child case years ago, and he remembered something odd. The night before Lily vanished, her mother had reported finding a strange gift on their porch, wrapped in the same red ribbon. "We never found out who left it," he said quietly, "but that was the last time anyone saw her alive." The officer suggested they leave the house, but by then it was too late. The box appeared no matter where they went, on their doorstep, in their car, even once inside Sarah's school locker. The bleeding never stopped. Sometimes the ribbon would drip fresh red stains as if the box itself were alive. Desperate, Sarah's mom found an old local priest who agreed to bless their home. During the blessing, the walls shook, the mirrors cracked, and the faint voice of a child whispered, "Don't make me leave again." The priest shouted prayers until the noise stopped. He left them a warning. If the spirit believes it was wronged on its birthday, it will keep searching for the one who took its happiness away. Sarah never knew what that meant, but deep down she felt a chilling connection, as if the spirit had chosen her to replace what it lost. On her next birthday, her parents tried to cancel everything. No decorations, no cake, no guests. But as midnight struck, the doorbell rang. Her father refused to answer it, yet when they checked the porch in the morning, the box was waiting again, the ribbon darker, almost black, and on the top, written in trembling letters, "It's your turn now." That was the last night they stayed in that house. They moved far away, hoping distance would break the curse. But years later, when Sarah turned 21, she received a package at her college dorm. No return address, no tag, just a familiar red ribbon and a faint blood stain running down the side. She never opened it. She called her parents in tears, but when they rushed to her dorm, the box had disappeared. They searched everywhere, even checked the campus security cameras, but there was nothing. Only the footage of Sarah sitting in her room looking terrified, and then the camera flickers, showing for a split second a small figure of a girl standing behind her, holding a box. To this day, Sarah refuses to celebrate birthdays. She says she still hears the faint humming of that same child's voice every year around her birthday, whispering from somewhere close, "Thank you for the gift." So if you ever find a red ribboned box on your doorstep with no name, don't open it. Because some gifts don't come from the living, They come from those who never got to blow out their candles. And if you want more real and spine-chilling stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. 3. The Last Candle. It was a warm summer evening in California when Mark decided to throw his 21st birthday party at his family's old beach house, a place that had been in their family for decades but hadn't been used since his grandfather's mysterious death there years ago. The house stood right at the edge of the coast, overlooking dark waves that crashed endlessly against the rocks. It was a perfect spot for a party, isolated, scenic, and large enough to host all his friends. Mark was a fun-loving, easygoing guy, never one to believe in ghost stories or family curses. Though his grandmother had warned him not to spend his birthday night in that house, she used to say strange things happened there after midnight, especially when the last candle went out. Mark laughed it off, brushing aside her warning with a grin and a promise to call her after the celebration. That night the house came alive with music, laughter, and the clinking of glasses. Friends filled every corner, dancing barefoot on the old wooden floors, taking selfies and roasting marshmallows outside near the beach fire. The moon was bright, the ocean breeze cool, and everything felt alive. Around 11, as the cake was brought out, someone noticed that the house lights had begun to flicker. The music stuttered for a moment, and the candles on the cake shimmered oddly, their flames bending in a direction where no wind blew. Mark laughed again, saying the old place probably just needed new wiring. They sang happy birthday and everyone cheered as he leaned forward to blow out the candles. But when he did, all of them went out, except one. That single candle right in the middle of the cake burned stubbornly, refusing to go dark no matter how hard he blew. The room went strangely quiet. The laughter died down, replaced by awkward smiles and nervous glances. "Guess you got a magic candle," one friend joked, trying to break the tension. Mark shrugged and pinched the flame out with his fingers, smirking. But the second he did, every light in the house went out at once. The generator failed, plunging the party into complete darkness. There was a collective gasp, then nervous laughter again. Someone turned on their phone flashlight, and people began to scatter, trying to find the fuse box. Mark walked toward the hallway, calling for his friend Jason, who was supposedly checking the basement. The house creaked around him, old wood settling under years of coastal dampness, but beneath that there was another sound, a faint whispering, almost like someone humming the tune of Happy Birthday. At first, he thought it was one of his drunk friends, but the voice grew clearer, closer. "Make a wish," it whispered. He froze. His phone light flickered, and for just a split second, he saw a reflection in the old hallway mirror. His own face, smiling back at him, but behind that reflection stood another figure, shadowy and tall, wearing what looked like a tattered suit. When he turned around, no one was there. His heart pounded. He tried to laugh it off again and went downstairs to the basement, calling Jason's name, but the air was damp and freezing. The light switch didn't work, and the deeper he went, the stronger that whisper became. "Make a wish. Blow the last candle," it said again, echoing off the walls. Mark stumbled back, his flashlight flickering across the floor where he noticed something. Footprints. Wet, muddy footprints leading away from the stairs, even though no one had gone down there before him. He followed them cautiously until they stopped at the far wall. Only there was something off about that wall. It looked newer, like it had been built to cover something. His stomach twisted with unease. Upstairs he could still hear faint laughter from his friends, but it felt distant, almost unreal. Suddenly a loud bang echoed behind him and the old wooden door slammed shut. He ran up the stairs, yanking at the handle, shouting for help, but it wouldn't budge. The lights above flickered briefly, and for a moment he saw someone standing at the top of the stairs. A pale figure holding the same candle he'd blown out earlier. "You forgot to make a wish," the voice whispered. Then the figure vanished. Mark blacked out. When he came to, he was lying on the floor with Jason shaking him awake. The lights were back on and the music was playing again as if nothing had happened. "Dude, you good?" "You just passed out," Jason said, helping him up. Mark tried to explain, but his voice faltered when he looked around. Everything was normal, except for the cake. The candles were all lit again, even the one he'd put out earlier burning brightly on the table. Everyone gathered around laughing, teasing him to try again. Mark refused at first, feeling a deep chill crawl up his spine. But the pressure of the crowd pushed him into it. He took a deep breath, leaned in, and blew. This time the candles went out completely and silence felt like a heavy blanket. One of the guests, a girl named Claire, whispered, "Did you guys feel that?" The air